I just saw this video with these super successful women talking about how they don't really believe in imposter syndrome. And I think it's the perfect time for me to talk about why I do not believe in imposter syndrome. To be the self-made person that I am striving to be, I know that I have to be comfortable operating outside of my comfort zone. And
we're talking about getting out of that comfort zone. You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable in order to get to where it is you want to go. You can't just stay in the comfort zone. The comfort zone is like a flat line. You're not moving. You're in the comfort zone. Eventually, we all want to be in the comfort zone, but we have to go up and we have to get uncomfortable. And going up that steep hill, it hurts your calves, right? You start hurting. The back of those thighs start burning as you're going up. You got to get uncomfortable. So then once you reach that mountaintop, then you can be at the point of comfort. But you got to climb them hills. You got to climb the mountain. You got to be uncomfortable.
My life so far, I have already been shown that whenever I lean into an uncomfortable situation, a positively uncomfortable situation, I literally grow so much and I see so much of a leap in my life. And whenever my life is comfortable and things have been the same for a long time regarding my environment, the people I spend time around, the rooms that I'm in, I notice how stagnant I am and how frustrated I end up getting because I'm like, why am I stuck? That is why I quickly became the person that could literally move to the opposite side of the country by myself with no friends there, no family there, and know that I'm going to be not just okay, but I'm going to thrive. That is when I became the person who could walk into a room with people who are 10 times smarter than me, more experienced than me, and stand there with my shoulders back and my chin high, because I know that being in that room, even if I don't know a fifth of the things that they know, means that my life is going to change. I am going to thrive in that situation, and I'm going to end up conquering that new space and then being like, what's next, and needing a new level of discomfort to get to. You want to change your life completely, you need to be willing to conquer things. You can't be the person that thinks that the end goal is being the smartest person in the room. You have to be the person that realizes that the real power is never being the smartest person in the room. And as soon as you become the person who's the smartest in that room, you are in the wrong room and you are not around the right people. Everything happens for a reason. When you are placed in a space, you are supposed to be in that space and you are supposed to take something from it. You are there to conquer it. You are not there for it to feel all warm and cozy like home. That is for mediocre people.
We don't want no mediocre. No. And when she said, you want to be in a room with people who are smarter than you, people who have something to offer you to help you level up. You don't want to just hang around the same, I'm sorry. You don't want to hang around the same people forever, because y'all all will stay on the same level forever. Some people are going to have to be left behind. Ooh, I said this before, and I hate to say it because I know that we have friends and family members that we love so dearly. But if you want to succeed, you're going to have to leave some people behind. I know it's sad. You can still love them. You can still hang with them every now and again, but that can't be your core group of people. If you are trying to level up, you're going to have to level up to the next level of people as well. Not saying that you have to grab hold of other people, but you have to learn something from somebody. I don't even want to say, like, we can't be all in the room not knowing nothing. That ain't how it works. That's not how success works. Somebody has to pop up with some ideas and some smarts. Like, somebody has to do something. If not, you're going to remain stagnant for the rest of your life and you're going to end up being unfulfilled. So unfortunately, you have to leave some people behind. Ooh.
You are there to leave smarter. You are there to leave more confident. You are there to prove something to yourself. When you start thinking about this, imposter syndrome won't make much sense to you either. You are always enough. There's always something you can contribute to the conversation. You're just going to have to start accepting the challenge of being comfortable enough to spend time in a space, analyze it, and figuring out what that is that you can contribute. Don't run away from it. Be excited by it.
Yes. Be excited to learn something new. Be excited to get to the next level. You say you want these things. You want this new house. You want these new designer gear. You want all these things. But how you gonna get it? Staying stagnant. Staying comfy. Playing video games and sitting down and eating your mama's food. And let me stop.
There was a question about imposter syndrome, and you said, I don't have imposter syndrome.
I don't even believe it exists.
I think a lot of Black women are told, this is what imposter syndrome is, and you guys probably have this, and here's how you manage it. And it's like, I feel like sometimes we're like self-fulfilling prophecies in our community. And
That's what it is.
Drives me nuts.
People are backing their way into something that doesn't have anything to do with them. By nature, we have to get more comfortable with understanding there are going to be spaces we're going to go into that are not going to be comfortable, not because we don't belong there, but because our roots were severed. Every single time I think about who I am in America, I go back to our roots.
Yes.
I go back to the fact that our African ancestors, 12 million, left the shores of Africa. Only 388,000 arrived in America. We're all the descendants of 388,000 of the strongest of the strong, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
Yes.
We can't fail unless we give up. That don't have nothing to do with imposter, nothing.
You can't fail unless you give up. That's a good word right there. You can't fail unless you give up. So don't give up. You can't fail.
Most high performers are full of imposter syndrome, and this is why. So let's consider, why do high performers work so hard? Why do they strive so much? There is a reason why they perform better and more than, say, the average individual. And typically this is from a need to prove themselves. So in order to have this need to prove yourself, you need to have an internal state of feeling that you're not enough, or perceiving that whatever you are internally is not good enough. And when you have this change between the external perception and the internal perception, you get imposter syndrome. So let's imagine that you're someone that is striving very hard because you have this internal state of, I'm not good enough, I need to prove myself. And so therefore you end up a high performer because you have that like fuel. And then you have all of this.
Here we go. Like I said earlier, the feeling of not feeling worthy. Again, that's something you have to deal with internally. So it's not necessarily that you have imposter syndrome, that you should not be in these places. It's more so a feeling of not feeling worthy of your achievements, that self-doubt. Is that imposter syndrome?
External validation. You get promoted, people start recognizing you, they start calling you a high performer, and then you start having this disconnect between what the external world is saying and how you feel on the inside, because on the inside you continuously feel like you're not doing enough. And that's where imposter syndrome is created.
Okay. See, I'm getting it. I'm learning as I go. So imposter syndrome. So even though you are getting the recognition, you are receiving, say, bonuses and raises and things like that, but you're still feeling that you are not worthy enough. That's that confidence. You need to build your confidence up and just know that within yourself, you are more than enough.
So for a lot of you, you start thinking, oh, I got lucky. Like, this is a very common mindset for high performers with imposter syndrome. I got lucky. Like, this wasn't really like something I did. This wasn't a result of my skills or my hard work. I got lucky. And this is the mindset that they build up in order to bridge that cognitive dissonance that's created between their internal perception of themselves, which is someone that isn't that great, and the external perception of them, which is someone who is really that great. Because it's very confusing if you think about it. If I like imagine myself as someone not that great, and if I perceive myself as someone not that great, and the whole world is telling me like, wow, you did so much, like this is really impressive. How do I explain that? Because I need to maintain that I am a rational, intelligent individual in order to remain psychologically well. And so I need to create a story that fuses these together. And one of the stories that individuals with imposter syndrome create is, I got lucky. That makes sense, right? Because it allows me to continue thinking I am not that great. And it allows me to explain why people keep telling me that I am that great. It makes perfect sense.
That's too much confusion. Too much confusion for me. I am that great. I am great. Greatness is in me. I am great. I can't do the confusion. It's too much because it adds too much more stress to my life. So if I'm already performing at a high state, I'm already achieving and making all these accomplishments, why do I want to add confusion to my life of I don't deserve it? Yeah, yes, you do. You deserve it. That is a mental battle, and I'm not for it. I'm great. I don't have imposter syndrome.
The problem with having the I am lucky core belief is that it perpetuates the imposter syndrome. So you're never actually getting to the root cause of the imposter syndrome, which is that perception of I am not that great. You're just kind of fixing it with like this Band-Aid solution. And so if you actually want to feel better, and if you want to bridge that divide that often is so difficult to bridge, and often you can even feel like, oh, I'm a fraud. People are going to find me out. I'm like really deceiving these people because I know I'm not that great. But for whatever reason, they have a completely different perception. Then this is imposter syndrome, and you need to actually get to the root cause, which is your perception of yourself. And in order to change your perception of yourself, you need to change your core beliefs about yourself. And that's that will take work because you've spent so many decades developing your own core beliefs.
I'm exhausted just listening to the description of imposter syndrome. I'm exhausted. This can't be it.
You know what always irritates me? When individuals will try to create terms via like research and then apply them to the individual they were not created for. For example, there's all this talk about imposter syndrome, right? How would you feel knowing that the like original researchers who coined the term imposter syndrome used a population that were, and I quote, primarily white middle to upper class women between the ages of 20 and 45. Like they're so like, and then I'll see these things where they're like, can you talk about imposter syndrome when it relates to Black people? I said, I'm gonna do you one better. I'm gonna talk to you about racism related stress as it relates to Black people, because you guys will use the term imposter syndrome, but it makes sense to feel like an imposter in an unwelcoming environment. Imposter syndrome is the aspect of not feeling welcome or not feeling like enough in that environment, right? So if I'm in a racist environment, if I'm in a sexist environment, if I'm in an oppressive environment, I guess that makes me feel imposterish. I guess that makes me feel like an imposter. Or am I dealing with my reaction and my appropriate response to racism, oppression, and sexism, and colorism, and texturism? Like, what?
Imposter syndrome, from what I gather, is the feeling of not being worthy to accept the accomplishments that you've made or the achievements that you've had. The feeling of self-doubt just creeps in, all that negative talk. I don't belong here. These are better people than comparison. We have to stop. We have to stop that. So what do you feel about imposter syndrome? Do you think it's real? Do you think it's made up? Do you think it's just all in your head? It's something else that you chose to make up and assign to yourself, that you're an imposter in this big group of achievers and accomplished people. You're the one that doesn't belong here. When you walk into a room and you've been invited, but yet you still feel that you don't belong. I don't accept it. I don't accept the imposter syndrome theory. I don't accept it because you have worked too hard. I have worked too hard. You have had all these achievements and accomplishments. You belong in that room. And as I always say, you are appreciated. You are appreciated. And I appreciate you for being here. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you on the next video. Now, excuse me, there was a comment in one of my previous videos where someone has said, good topic to discuss, imposter syndrome. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. Let me look into it, because I didn't have enough information to talk about it right then and there. So I just did a little research on them TikTok streets and brought it on over to these YouTube streets. I feel like when you have that self-doubt, it really does come from a place of, again, self-doubt, fear of failure, or that you did fail. I really can't explain it. Let me think about that. When you are doubting yourself and you know that you are highly accomplished, I can't understand why you would want to put yourself in a box of, I don't belong here, I'm not worthy. It can be unbelievable that you made it there. Like if you come from humble beginnings, or you come from a place of mental abuse or torture by, your family or something, where you have been torn down mentally. I can understand being or feeling as if you don't belong in certain spaces. But at some point in time, you have to realize your self-worth. And I'm sure it's easier said than done. I'm sure there's a lot of work that needs to be done to build up one's confidence, because I haven't always been that confident person. I felt at some point in time that, this person is better. Comparison. Oh, it might come from comparison. Because who else do you have to compare to besides another person? When you're not looking at yourself and looking at what you have achieved as being a great deal. You look at the next person and say, I don't compare to them. How are they here and I'm here also? They have so much more than I do. Yeah, I think it's a comparison thing. Let me know what you think about that. Does imposter syndrome come from a place of comparison? Is imposter syndrome something that somebody made up in their mind, had that negative self-talk, and, just continue to bring yourself down and make your own self feel that you're not worthy? Like I said, I am worthy. And that's an affirmation. Now, I got an affirmation video, right? I'm going to put it in here. Plugging my video is what I do. But you have to speak positively about yourself. I belong here. I have accomplished X, Y, Z, and this is the reason that I'm in this room today. This is the reason why I have a seat at the table today, is because I have accomplished all these things. Like, these are things that you have to speak into yourself. You have to speak these things into your own self in order to make it go away. If you do have imposter syndrome, right? They just normal folks like everybody else. Just normal folks. And you belong in the room right with them because you're normal too. And not only that, you have probably achieved or accomplished a lot more. They just ended up with the titles. They just ended up with those salaries. But at the same time, you also deserve the same things or even more. So just make sure that you build that confidence up